And I would like to, first of all, talk a little bit about what addiction is and what it isn't. So in order to kind of explore that, I would like to give you a couple of myths about addiction. So, addiction only involves substances. I'm not an addict unless I'm abusing substances daily. I'm not an addict if I have a job, a house, and a family. I'm not an addict unless I'm drinking or using every day. I have to identify as an addict in order to join mindfulness-based addiction recovery course. Also, I have to be a Buddhist in order to join this course. So these are just a few myths about addiction. And I would like to definitely clarify a little bit of what addiction is and why does it happen? What is the core of it, actually? So, according to Dr. Gabor Mate, who is one of my dear teachers and mentors, everything that happens in the present comes from something that happened in our childhood. So the body, our bodies, they have memory of actually things that happened to us as much as our mind. And very often we actually don't have memories and we can't remember actively in our memory of what happened to us. And so addiction actually develops as an adaptation to circumstances, the adaptation to what actually happens to us. It is what is protecting us. It is what helped us survive. And so we all experienced a certain dramatic and difficult events in our childhood. And people sometimes have tendency to call this trauma. So for this purpose, let's just call them traumatic events. But the thing is that not all the people actually end up being traumatized. Some people are able to live an adult life without actually carrying this trauma with them. Now, what happens with addicts is that addicts actually stay with those experiences and they end up being traumatized. So not everybody has a reaction, but we addicts actually do. And so no matter what background you come from, no matter what you do for a living, how much money you're making, no matter how functional you appear to be in the society on the outside, no matter if you drink only on the weekend and you use Coke only when you need to work hard and focus, you can still be an addict. You could be in dysfunctional relationship without being able to get out of it for a very long time. You could be thinking yourself into anxiety. You could be worrying excessively. You could be overworking in order to compensate for a certain insecurity, low self-esteem. You could be using diet pills and purging in order to lose weight, or use speed or prescribed drugs to improve your concentration. You could compulsively compare yourself with all those seemingly perfect people on Instagram or Facebook. All of these are addictions. And so there are different ways that we define addiction. One of the ways that we can define addiction is based on disease model, right? It's a genetic disease actually, and people are just simply born with it, and that's it. But I personally belong to a different school, and I'm going to share with you a definition, again by my teacher, Dr. Gabor Mate, that actually makes a lot of sense for me, and I find that a lot of people are able to resonate with it. So addiction is a complex process which manifests in a behavior. This behavior can involve substances, but it doesn't have to involve them. It can involve behaviors such as overworking, overexercising, sex, social media, shopping, gambling, etc. And so this behavior or substance offers us relief immediately and temporarily, or it brings us joy, but necessarily brings out negative consequences. Also, we are unable to stop with this behavior, although we are aware of these consequences. And so if you hear this definition, as opposed to a medical definition of addiction, I don't know about you, but I think that any of us, each of us, can recognize some situations where we actually do show some of these behaviors and we do act out in certain ways. And so the question here is actually, the fact is that under every addiction, there is a pain, since addictions are really just very humane manifestation of our nature. And so we here ask, why the pain? And we don't ask, why the addiction? Right? So we are all addicted to something, or we all struggle with certain compulsive or obsessive behavior. So the question here is also, what is the function of it? What is the function? What is the addiction? What is the compulsive or obsessive behavior doing for us? It is self-medicating. It is making us feel good. It is making us feel connected. It is making us feel real, more socially acceptable. It's giving us all possible ways that we can function in our life. Now, of course, when we talk about addiction, we have to talk about recovery. And so the word recovery itself, in the school of thought that I belong to, we actually consider recovery to be regaining connection with our true self. So to recover something that has been covered up or lost briefly, although we don't believe that we ever lose that connection with our true, beautiful, divine, higher self. But let's say for this purpose that that connection was covered up, and it was covered up through the adaptive behaviors, through the addiction, through the substances, through all the obsessive compulsive behaviors that we actually had to embrace in order to survive. And so in the process of recovery, we get to open up a little bit this hidden closet, and we get to know ourselves better. But I have to say that for many of us, this process can be very painful and very challenging. And this is where I find mindfulness very helpful in this process. So mindfulness-based addiction recovery approach, or MBAR approach, it breaks down the vicious cycle of addiction for us, looking at how we as people with addictions or with obsessive behaviors, whatever you like, how we get onto this vicious cycle and how we cannot get off. What is actually happening there? The mindfulness course teaches us to feel, to come home to our bodies, because most of us are not at home. Most of us left our homes a long time ago in childhood when we switched the feelings off because it was too painful to actually stay on, and because it protected us. And that's how we survived. So through mindfulness, we have to learn to come back home to the body. And it is scary, right? So the mindfulness course can teach us actually how to come back home in a safe way and how to feel good. Most people still choose to get high, to get drunk, to alter their minds. But actually, in order to come back to the body, in order to be present, we actually need clarity. And we can't get clarity if the mind is altered. So with mindfulness course, we learn to come back to the body, to the breath, to come back and get in touch with our feelings. Because often what happens is that we actually spend time in our head. And when we are in our heads, that's a trouble. We're listening to those critical thoughts that are telling us that, we deserve a drink, that it's been a long and hard day, we have to relax, I can't do it without it. So these thoughts often actually make us pick up a drink, act out, use, or sabotage our process and our recovery. I want to say that there's been a lot of misunderstanding around who is this course for. And I want to tell you that this course is beneficial for anyone who wants to enhance their recovery. And I'm purposely not saying addiction recovery because you don't have to identify as an addict. You don't have to be an addict, certainly not addicted to substances. However, I have to say that there is no one program that works for everybody. And I don't think that mindfulness is just simply enough for everybody, and it's not probably enough to be done alone without any other support. So if you wish, you can keep on shopping around for anything, for something that works for you. And if you keep on doing that, find something that works for you and stick to it. So no matter what it is, it's a 12-step program, a Buddhist approaches to recovery with programs such as refuge recovery or 8-step recovery, mindfulness programs, anything that there is, but find the community, find the program, and actually stick to it. And just know that every time you can do something different. It doesn't matter where you are in your life, you can actually change that every second. And even if you slip, even if you have a relapse, you can still do something different the very next moment. And that's beautiful, right? So that's all for today. In my final video, next and final video, I will introduce you to a mindfulness exercise that I hope you find useful, and you can use it at any time when you find yourself in the middle of a stress or uncomfortable situation, or in trance or autopilot when you notice that you're not present. And I hope you find this information useful, and until next time, thank you.